Welcome to the Well Necessity Podcast, a podcast about men's mental health and suicide prevention. I'm your host, Sophia Uriarte, executive producer of the documentary film One Breath at a Time, a film that explores masculinity, my own personal story with grief and loss, as well as suicide prevention. Today I'm joined by my brilliant co-host, Elena Cohen, therapist and spiritual mentor. And today we are honored to have our wonderful guest, Adam Russell, who is a director of business development, community organizer, breathwork, and sound bath facilitator, as well as retreat leader.
AKA Mr. Razzle Dazzle, AKA our Dungeon Master, AKA soon to be Papa Russell.
Yeah, I'm excited about that last one the most.
Adam's story is one of resilience and transformation, from overcoming homelessness to stepping into a life of service, self-awareness, and leadership.
This is really a story for any man who's felt like he's drowning or that he has to figure it out all on his own.
What were some of the things that happened just before you were without housing?
Yeah, for sure. So I had graduated high school in 2007. I went to college that fall, 2007. I didn't have the financial support of my parents, and FAFSA requires that if you are under 24, you have to give their information. Mm-hmm. And so I went about the process of getting myself emancipated, so that way I didn't have to provide their income. And so I was able to do that. I went to college and I had a dorm for 2007 and spring of 2008. Went in 2008, fall of 2008, and I didn't have a dorm. I had my classes, but I didn't have a dorm. I didn't have a place to live. Mm-hmm. And so I was with my girlfriend at the time. And that was a very tumultuous, abusive relationship. Like, she would be the type to hit me, and I'm not talking about like a slap, like a punch in the face. You know, she'd put like a lighter in her hand or a roll of quarters in her hand. So she knew what she was doing. You know what I mean? But it was a very passionate relationship. And then, you know, when it ended, I was in a situation where I was going to school. I worked in the cafeteria at school, but I didn't have a place to live on school. And so I had to kind of do this like couch surfing thing while I was finishing up that semester. And that was not really good for my studies. So that was the last year I went to college. I came back home and I lived with my dad, my sister, my dad's girlfriend, her two daughters, and one of her daughter's two daughters. So we had a big full house. And I was still pursuing getting fucked up and, you know, being intoxicated. I would work, but wasn't really like making that a priority. And I was just consumed with my own pain, really, at that time. I actually thought about this period driving over here, because I haven't really given this period too much thought. You know, it's, for me, when I think of the homelessness, I think of the couch surfing in college and then the period after, what I'm talking about right now. But as I was thinking about it, I realized that I was causing pain and continuing cycles of abuse that I had done to me onto my family, specifically my sister, during this time. We've made up and I've apologized to her, and, you know, that's a whole nother story in itself. But I lived at that house for 7-8 months. The house got foreclosed on, and from there went back to couch surfing. I was partying pretty heavily at this time, going to the after hours in Miami, selling drugs and doing just living that wild life. But it eventually came to a head, and I didn't have any more couches to go to. Wound up squatting in homes, and then from squatting, eventually went to a homeless shelter in Fort Lauderdale. I remember my 21st birthday being in the homeless shelter. So I turned 21, I'm in the shelter all alone. And the way the shelter was set up was probably like 400, 500 people in a room. bunk beds, just bunch of rows of bunk beds, big like open plan bathroom shower kind of concept. Uh, and I still didn't learn my lesson at that point, or at least the full lesson. You know, turning 21 in the shelter was like really hard. And I was like, all right, I need to start working. I need to start like really, really hustling. So I got a bunch of jobs.
Was it in your mind the solution was more money, like getting a job? It wasn't like looking at the pain yet or all those other things. It's
It
like
wasn't.
if I just
It
get
wasn't
money,
looking
I
at
can
the
fix
pain yet.
this. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
it was just get money. I can fix this with money. And so I got a job as a dishwasher. I got a job at Office Depot, and I got a job at a like a casual dining restaurant. And I didn't want to be at the shelter. And you had to be there at certain time in the morning and a certain time at night, like a curfew kind of thing. But one of my jobs was earlier than I could go, so I got a permission slip to leave early. And one of my jobs was past the curfew, and so I got a permission slip to come back past the curfew. Trying to minimize as as much time as I could to not spend in the shelter. I was there for probably like 3 months or so. But during this time, I still would, go, and I had a girlfriend at the time, and we would go and do drugs and drink, and I would find ways to avoid really confronting myself.
And what were some beliefs that you had about yourself while you were without housing?
Well, I thought that I was worthless, that, I deserved what I got, that I was abandoned by everyone in my life. I felt that it was unfair at the time. In that situation, it was really like, how could everyone in my life turn against me?
The
So
betrayal.
it was very much a victim mindset. Poor me. It's everyone else's fault. If I was just given what other people were given, I wouldn't be in this position. And so it was very much a blaming mindset.
Was there any moments when you went through that period of homelessness where you struggled with depression or thoughts of like, maybe it's just better if I'm not here?
Yeah, absolutely. So before I went into the shelter, I was staying with my girlfriend at a friend's house. And we were in like some kind of very ghetto neighborhood. My girlfriend and I were the only white people in the whole neighborhood. And it's fine. But I was still doing stupid things, going to parties. I was stealing. I was doing what I could. And I remember at a point in time where I had stolen some stuff from a house party I was at. And I had sold it. And I had like $1,000. And I put it in their safe. Like they were holding it onto it for me, the people that I was staying with. And then they took it from me. And they were like, this is ours now. And I remember that night, I felt like I had nothing. And I did take a knife. And I did slit my wrists. I still have some scars here. I don't know if you can see them.
Oh,
They're
wow.
very, very faint now. And I remember they would say, go down the street. Or you go down the road, not across the street. In terms of like cutting your wrists. And I was drunk and I was doing it, and I was digging the knife into my arm, and for some reason I felt like the knife wasn't able to like go that deep. And so I did it again and again and again. That's why there's a bunch of them. I definitely feel like that was a moment where God is like, no, I'm going to let you do this to yourself, but I'm not going to let it go all the way.
Like you're not ending yourself tonight.
Yeah. And that was like right before the homeless shelter. So that was leading up into the homeless shelter. And so, yes, I did have suicidal thoughts. And I had suicidal thoughts growing up. When I was growing up, my mom abused me, not just physically and verbally, but she molested me. And it caused me to seek out other relationships that were dramatically like power imbalance. Like when I was 15 and 16, seeking out women in their 30s. And thinking that it was a normal thing, but what I was doing was I was reinforcing the sexual trauma that I had. I didn't realize it until many years later.
But like in a way that you had control over it this time, or it was like your choice because you were seeking it out.
As much as a 15-year-old can
right,
choose to do that.
subconsciously, right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the time, I didn't think it was harmful. But years later, I definitely thought it was harmful. But these things were...
If I can, did you not think it was harmful because it was like a masculinity thing? Like, oh, look, I'm getting all these older women interested in me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a pride thing.
One of the ways that I measured my self-worth back then was the number of partners that I could have, and was the way that I could do stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely. But that trauma was one of the contributors to the suicidal ideations, the suicidal thoughts growing up. And then the last suicidal thought was when I tried to do that I explained to you guys before I wound up going to the homeless shelter.
Well, thank you so much for being brave enough to share all of this with us. We really appreciate it. And what I would like to know is what, if anything, kept you going during that time?
Yeah. So what kept me going during that time? Well, I started seeing some progress when I got the jobs at the shelter. I started seeing some progress. I would make a couple steps forward, but I wasn't I'm very stubborn and hard-headed, so I had to learn multiple lessons. And so one of the lessons was like it had to get worse for me. Being 21 in a homeless shelter wasn't it. Like it had to get even worse for me to really learn. I learned to get work, right? And I learned that lesson, but that was addressing a symptom, right? And so one day when I was out with my girlfriend, we got pulled over, and both of us had a bench warrant for a court date we missed. So we both got arrested, right? And I was in the jail for like 3 or 4 days, saw the judge, and then I got released. And I got released in the middle of the night, and I had to walk from the jail to the shelter. And that was like really like, damn, this is like, really, is this my life? Like, can it get worse than this? I'm getting out of jail and I'm walking to a homeless shelter. I don't have anyone in my life, right?
Like, I'm at the rock bottom. My life does not match the expectations that I have for myself. But you knowing that you have this potential and vision for your life, I'm sure that played a role in you continuing to seek out other opportunities, because you had this, what it sounds like, incredible resilience inside of you.
And like refusing to accept reality, but in a good way. Like, nah, I'm not going to let this be my reality. I've got to do something about this.
Yeah. I mean, like, yes, you have those terrible times, right? And it's like, oh, you're in the shelter, and but like, there's people in the shelter that I would talk to, and I would make friends, and like even people that were spiritual at the center, and like, okay, we're gonna study some spiritual stuff over here, and my other friend over here, oh, okay, we're gonna go walk and go to the beach today. Like, it's like in the midst of like hardships, you can still look up and see the sun, and you can still smile and have laughter. Like. So I say all these things. It's like, yeah, it was tough. It's probably one of the hardest parts of my life. But there were still moments of joy and moments of happiness. Yeah. It was just more so like the situation was horrible, and it wasn't what I wanted for myself. And so after the jail and working, and I kind of straightened up a little bit. And then they rewarded me with moving me to a halfway house. So instead of having 400 guys as roommates, I had like 8 or 9, and so it was like, all right, let me do this. And, I would do well, and then I would fuck around a little bit. And one of the nights I fucked around, I went out and told the halfway house that I had an overnight shift, because I was working overnight shifts. And then I went to downtown Fort Lauderdale, and I got into a fight with a cop, and the cop beat my head with a stick, and that's where I got this scar from. I had to go to the hospital, and
it's like we don't want to laugh, but it's the shock of the story. Like, oh no.
But this was like amazing because it was like, all right, rock bottom, go a little bit up, start messing around again, go back down.
So do you feel like in a way you self-sabotage the success that you were having? Like
100%.
you would get like a little further ahead and maybe there was thoughts of like, I don't deserve this, and then there was that sabotage.
It was constant self-sabotage. And I didn't understand what self-sabotage was at that point. But looking back, yeah, I was sabotaging myself all the time. I was constantly choosing to try to escape reality. And that's where my problems would be, you know? Because getting fucked up and trying to escape reality, in the moment you feel great when you're high or drunk or whatever. But then you come down, and what problems did you cause when that happened? And your problems that you were trying to escape from are right there waiting.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people look at someone who's homeless and they immediately go towards the solution of, okay, let's get him a job, let's get him a house. But oftentimes we see people having this resurgence of the same patterns, and it sounds like that sort of cycle of success and failure was very recurring in your life.
Yeah, during that period, absolutely. Because I would learn a little bit of the lesson. And then I'd be like, all right, well, now that I'm good.
Now that I figured everything out.
Now that I'm no longer in the shelter, I'm in a halfway house. You know? I can go to get drunk and party in downtown. And it's like, nope, smack. I needed the smack.
I was going to say, was it more like sabotage of like, oh, I don't deserve this, or like, oh, I deserve to get away with some stuff, or I should be able to go party like other people party?
Well, it's both. It's both. It's doing certain behaviors because I feel like I'm unworthy and don't deserve it, but then also paradoxically I deserve it. And I should get to have these things. And so like absolutely both at the same time.
So what was the hardest part mentally about being without housing at that time?
I would say the loneliness and the abandonment, really. That's what hurt the most. Is I had a dad and a mom and a sister. And, I'm like, where are they? Like, why are they saying no to me? At that point in time, I mean, if the situation was reversed, I would say no. But like, and it's funny, like now that I'm 15 years from that, I do help people out, and I have housed people and taken them in, and it's literally the reverse, and I can see my mindset at that time in them. And so it's like, oh, me, very selfish mindset. I deserve you, and you don't think of what you're doing to them. I would stay at my friend who had a room in a 4-bedroom apartment and 3 other roommates. And I'd be like, yeah, he should let me stay on his couch. No thought of what that stress puts him with his living mates. You know, like no thought about it, no care. And then when the time comes for him to be like, all right, no more. Like, how could you do this to me? So abandonment perceived everywhere. And then, like, some of it is real, yeah. But most of it was my own doing. But the abandonment was probably the hardest part. And the feeling alone.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially when it's your own family and it kind of feels like you against the world. So at that time, did you have any semblance of a spiritual practice at that time? Or, like, how did you get into the church?
Yeah, so I grew up, like, Baptist, Presbyterian, Christian, you know, like mainstream. And I did go to a church when I was in the shelter one time and had like my weepy moment, you know, in the pews. But then the people at the church immediately turned me off. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I remembered why I haven't been at church in a while. And so, yeah, I had kind of like a relationship with God, and you know, but it wasn't really being nurtured. It was the leftovers from what I had as a child.
So there's this spiritual disconnect, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay. With this spiritual disconnect, did you have any mentors or guides or anyone that you looked towards to help you continue the path forward?
Like once you were stable again.
Well, once he was in the halfway house and he was like working on maintaining a job and what have you.
No, I didn't really have any spiritual guides or mentors when I was in the halfway house. I did wind up moving to New Jersey for a couple months to live with my friend, and his mom is very like spiritually gifted, and so that was like a nice stabilizing influence. And then when I moved back down, I kind of had healed from the instability and doing all the things that would make me go back into like homelessness.
If Adam's story is inspiring you to get connected with other men, please head over to the Instagram Well Necessity Co. to see upcoming events in our community to get you plugged in with other men.
So I didn't really have a spiritual mentor or a guide, but I did read a lot. I did pursue like spiritual things. I did have started developing relationships and good friendships. Elena's one of the friendships that I developed around that time, getting out of the halfway house and back into like responsibility.
So yeah, talk more about that transition from the halfway house to where you are now, and what were things that you were doing to cope at the time?
Yeah. So moving from the halfway house, I got an apartment with a friend, and I lived in that apartment. We paid first, last, and security, and then the next month he couldn't afford his rent. And I'm like, dang, am I about to go back to this square one? But that's when, I had a friend and his family welcome me in New Jersey, and I got to work up there. I had already learned the lesson of like, all right, I need full-time work all the time. And so got a job up there, and that was a very nice couple of months with like a loving, healthy family. This is what it's like to be loved. This is what it's like to feel supported, to not have to earn your place, right? And so when I moved back down, so it's really funny because like I started dating a girl when I was in the house after the halfway house, the one that I lost after 2 months, and she was a model at the time. And so when I moved to New Jersey, I was keeping a long distance relationship with this model girl from Florida. And I was very intimidated because I was like, look at me, I'm like a bum, right? And I got this model girlfriend that's doing photo shoots. I'm like, how can I keep her engaged? And so I was like, maybe I'll be her agent, right? I had watched that show Entourage on HBO.
Ari Gold over here.
Ari Gold, right? And so I told my friend, and he's like, yeah, don't just be her agent, be everyone's agent. And so I was like, all right, cool. So I made a modeling agency at 21.
Which was very successful. They did like Miami Fashion Week.
Yeah, we did really well, right?
Came in, he was doing great.
We did really well. And so it was like depths and then super high. Like meeting like celebrities and like doing very big things very quickly. It was very like fake though, plastic. Like I wouldn't recommend it.
I was making plenty of money at the
it was
time.
good. And I had a job though too, so moved back down and it was like, all right, work. And, I would still drink a little bit, but after that point in my life, I've never been able to take shots of alcohol anymore. Even now, like if I take a shot, I'll just immediately like throw it up. Like, and not from like just my body's like, nah, we ain't doing it.
Never
and so
again.
I learned to like, if I'm going to drink beer, like don't get to in excess. I still had to learn a little bit of that lesson, in my younger 20s. But there was some takeaways. And so it was kind of like step by step, learning more responsibility. And then when I started dating my wife 10 years ago, that really became a period of stability. I got a job at this marketing agency, and I've been working at that marketing agency for many years, probably 8 years now. I've been with her for 10 years. I've lived in the apartment that I live in now for like 8, 9
13?
years, 10 years, 13
Longer
years.
than you've known her.
Yeah. So
Wow.
it's been like the past 10, 15 years have been very, very stable. And so it was like, all right, I don't want this ever again. And so what do I have to do to not fall into this ever again? And so the lessons were like, all right, if you are going to drink or do stuff, make sure you're not going to the point where you are going to black out. Make sure you're to the point where you can control yourself. If you feel yourself getting to so high, all right, now it's time for water and to come back down. Always have a full-time job. Always make sure you're working. If you lose a job, get whatever job you can the very next day, even if it's not the job that you're going to be in. And so I have always done that. I've always had a job. And my wife is like, yeah, I'm never worried about money with you, because like she's seen it. She's seen it, like lose a job and I have a job at 2 hours later. Lose a job, I have a job at the next day. And then I have a different job 3 days later. I'm like step. And so those were the two main lessons that I learned. But I've learned so many more lessons. And being with Jovi, having friends like Elena, investing in my mental health and spiritual health, going to therapists, and like I would say over the past 5 years, I hit a different rock bottom like 6 years ago, and that was a relationship rock bottom where I was almost going to get divorced with my wife. And that became a catalyzing moment to really dig in. And that was the point in my life where I like dug up all the roots and like replaced the plant. That is me, you know. So that was where the real healing came through. You know, the homeless situation and that was to teach me like, okay, this is what you need to do to move in the world and to be responsible as a man. But the real deep healing came about 6 years ago with my wife, and every day, every month is more and more healing, willing to have tough conversations, willing to really like put the light on in the dark places of my soul and of my mind, because how else am I going to clean it? How else am I going to get better?
Yeah, it sounds like the relationship created a lot of transformations inside of yourself. Was it ever like uncomfortable that you felt so triggered that it might have been easier to walk away? Or like, how did you learn how to teach yourself to lean into that discomfort instead, and also that unlearning of the victim mindset that you previously had to like, okay, I actually do have control of my life, and how can I take ownership and accountability over it?
Well, this is a big question. Yeah, so the discomfort is a presence that's always there. And to lean into the discomfort, because I don't know if you're familiar with the term choose your hard. Okay, so I can go to the gym, and that's hard. Or I could not go to the gym. And what that's going to do is it's going to make my muscles weak, which is going to cause my joints to get injured. I'm going to gain weight, which is going to cause my joints to get injured, and I'm going to hurt my knee. And that's hard. So do I want to choose the hard of going to the gym, or do I want to choose the hard of an ACL injury? You get what I'm saying? And so it's really like that every aspect of life, I think. You have to choose where you're going to be uncomfortable. So if I'm going to be uncomfortable and hash out this conversation with my wife, and we're both going to be very uncomfortable during this conversation, or we cannot have the conversation, and then that discomfort is going to show up in the relationship because things are unaddressed. What you don't speak out, you act out. If I'm mad at you and I don't tell you I'm mad at you, the way I act towards you, the way I behave is going to change. And so I have learned, after getting, my ass kicked a bunch of times, to choose the discomfort. And if there's something that is going to be pain now, but it's something that I can choose, versus a pain later that I don't choose, I want to choose the pain, because that's going to help me avoid the pain that I don't choose at a time that I don't choose. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. If you would like to support the work that we are doing with men's mental health and suicide prevention, please check out our Instagram page, The Wellnesscessity Co. on Insta, and also follow our YouTube page, because your wellness is a necessity. But how did you teach yourself that it was okay to not always be in a rainbow and butterfly romance, you know, that sometimes uncomfortable situations are going to come up with our partner, and it is going to trigger us. And
I learned that in therapy. We went to therapy. You know, I was at the brink, like what I told you, about 6 years ago, we were going to get a divorce, and we went to therapy and thinking we needed couples therapy, and no, we just needed individual therapy. We went to the therapist, like, you guys can come together if you want, but more so, like, you need to come individually. And that allowed me to, because the therapist doesn't heal you, they give you the tools to heal yourself. You know, they give you the perspective, they give you the understanding, and then you got to do it. But that was one of the areas that I learned to do all these things.
And if I can, like, so much couples that come in to couples therapy, it's more like, but now tell me I'm right. And it's so difficult. I mean, a skilled therapist, you get to that point where they can be vulnerable, but in the beginning, a lot of it is like, you just need to defend yourself. So I would think maybe going to the individual therapy gives you space to, like, explore it without feeling that.
Let's dive a little deeper into that in-between stage where you're having a lot of ups and downs in your life, and you had seen some success, but then there were some pitfalls along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So I moved back down to Florida. I'm still 21. I have a modeling agency, and I'm working for as a salesperson for a marketing company, different marketing company. And that was fun. We had a lot of high-profile jobs, meeting a lot of celebrities, doing a lot of cool things like that. But I didn't have a license in Florida for the modeling agency. It was like $15,000 a year, and I wasn't paying that.
And what was the name of the agency at the time?
All right, so I'm Egyptian, right, by my mom,
Okay.
and white American by my dad. So I always loved Egypt. And there's a goddess in Egyptian mythology, the goddess of beauty. It's called Isis. And so I named my modeling agency Isis Modeling and Talent Agency. This is before the terrorist organization. Unaffiliated.
Not that long before.
Different ISIS guys.
And so I did a job for Bud Light, and Bud Light paid on a net 40, which means that 40 days after the job, they'll pay you. And the way that I got paid as an agency was I would find jobs for the models, and I would take 20% of what they make, right? And so this being a net 40, I wasn't going to get paid till 40 days. The models weren't going to get paid till 40 days. One of the models that I got a job in this commercial was mad that I didn't pay her. And I'm like, it's a net 40. Her and her boyfriend started doing some research on me. They found that I wasn't licensed. And so they contacted the state of Florida, and I got a cease and desist from the state of Florida. I was like, all right, no more.
You got me.
No more modeling agency. And so from there, I continued doing my sales job. You know, I jumped around to other sales jobs. I wound up getting a sales job for another marketing agency that was contracted to sell Vonage, and did very well there. Wound up not getting paid by that company and had to do like a big lawsuit against them. And so, I mean, typical ups and downs in life, you know, wins, losses, had relationships, friendships, moving from this place to that place, you know, normal stuff. Started dating my now wife about 10 years ago. And at that time I was doing sales for a student loan forgiveness company. And we were killing it. And so I learned how to do the student loan forgiveness, and I wound up creating my own student loan forgiveness company. And that was great. I was making the most money I ever made in my life at that point. Every week was the biggest check ever. And me and my friend were going to grow the business and continue growing it. And then around that point, my dad died. And then literally the same week that my dad died, the government made it illegal for third-party companies to work with student loans.
Oh my goodness.
And so I was glad it happened at the same time, because it was like, all right, feel the pain and the sadness And if they were spaced out, it would have been like 2 periods of sadness and pain, but it was like bam, bam. And so from there, I got a job and wound up, just working regular stuff. And so that was, I guess, the transition from, the shelter to normal life to growing into, a career. I've always been in sales and marketing, know it very well. And when I found the job at my current agency, I was an entry-level position. But I had a lot of experience and I knew how to run Google ads and a lot of different things that we sold. And so I used my expertise to ask the owners of the business, hey, can we do this in-house? We outsource certain work. I trained teams to do it in-house. They promoted me to a director or they promoted me to a manager. And then from there I became a director. And then from there I created another team. And it's been a lot of promotion after promotion after promotion. And in my life, being very charismatic and being very sharp, I had a similar trajectory at a lot of jobs where it would be promotion, promotion, fire, promotion, promotion, fire. And it was because I still had some learning to do. I still had to figure out how to, work with a company and with executives and stuff. And so all of that learning, I've now been able to apply it at this job. And it's been very good.
Like, emotionally, do you feel like hope kept building, or what was changing emotionally as you kept going through these processes? And yes, you were getting fired, but then you also kept learning more.
Yeah. So like there's always been hope. There's always been resilience. There's always been love. And I think that's available to anybody, but it's just a matter of what are you focused on. Everyone has pain. Everyone suffers. But everybody also has dreams and goals and things. And so if I focus my attention on the pain, all I'm going to see is pain.
Do you think that's what happens for a lot of men? Or where do you feel like maybe some of your friends, your brothers, they get stuck in that process where they lose a job and then it's just like, fuck, I don't know what to do anymore?
So this is why I think being homeless was one of the biggest blessings in my life. I tasted the extreme version of what it can be like. And because of that, I have this inner drive to never get back there. I've had certain traumas in my life that were very extreme. And I feel like these things are blessings because it's a teaching moment, or it can be. It can be a teaching moment. And so I see a lot of men get stuck where they'd rather the discomfort that they know than the discomfort that they don't know. And this is where I see people stay in relationships that are not good for them.
Oh, I'm single, but oh well, I know what it is to be single.
Yeah.
And dates are scary,
or the other way. This person is really horrible to me, but I know what it's like, and I don't know. Maybe they're the best I could have. I also see that a lot of men like to make themselves a martyr. I've never really had that in me to make myself a martyr. When I grew up, I had a lot of good lessons from my parents growing up in terms of like autonomy and independence and, you can do whatever you want to do. And so I feel like even in the pit, even in the despair, I felt like, all right, well, I can do something about it. And so I guess like agency,
like for those listening, when you say like they want to be a martyr, what does that mean?
I know a lot of men that they saw their dad abandon their family or didn't have a dad.
So this is their duty, their obligation.
And so they have to be there for their kids and they can't divorce that was my dad. My dad, his dad ran away. I never knew my grandfather, but his dad ran away. And so he stayed in a relationship with my mom way too long, and suffered and dealt with a lot of things that were not good way too long, and would have stayed in that relationship if my mom didn't divorce him. So that's what I mean by being a martyr. That's one way it can show up. There's a lot of other ways it can show up.
But especially when it collides with that masculinity idea of I have to be the provider. I can't leave. This is my obligation to stay.
Absolutely.
No matter how bad it gets. Because the worst thing would be to leave. Even when the kids half the time are like, all right, when are we?
Yeah, that was it's very similar to my situation. I was a lot more peaceful in my house once my parents separated. And I think it's tough because, you know, a lot of times you're trying to make the best decision for your children and the people that you love and care about, but that level of selfishness ends up harming the
like you think
kids
you're
in the
selfless,
end and yourself.
but it's selfish.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So what else was going on, like, behind the scenes in your internal world emotionally when you were, you know, going through all of these transitions in your life?
Yeah, so I mean, the full breadth of all the emotions. You know, I had moments of joy and success, and, you know, moments of failure, and moments of being alone, moments of feeling surrounded by friends.
Yeah. Well, okay, what I'm trying to get at more is, like, how you described earlier, like, I used to have, like, this very strong, like, victim mindset, like, why is this happening to me? So for anyone in our audience who also has that same mindset, like, if you could sort of, like, walk them through how to get out of that.
Like, from that victimness to, like, the gratitude. Because what I was hearing you say is when you went to New Jersey, shout out Yaya, you weren't anymore like, they owe me this. You were able to be grateful for their love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I think it's like, all right, you have no one here. And then when you have no one there for you, when you do get, like, it's like you're in a desert. And, you know, before you were in the desert, you had water anytime you wanted, and you never thought of the water. But then you have that period in the desert, and now every sip of water is precious. And so having that period of time where no one was there, no one loved me, and then having unconditional love given to me and support given to me.
Yeah, like an oasis all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was a very sharp difference, you know, from you have to do this in order to earn your place here to, hey, this is for you. We're giving this to you.
Like love was a gift instead of something you had to turn around and earn.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I was loved by my parents, but they loved me in their own traumatic way that they inherited from their parents. With my dad, it was I needed to be perfect, or I needed to be the man. I needed to be a high achiever, you know. With my mom, it was another whole thing there, you know. And so getting a different type of love, one that didn't have so many strings, you know. So that was like a wake up for me. And
like,
then
this is what it could be.
And then developing friendships, because my long-term friendships, the ones that I cherish now, were developed at that point, like with Elena. I knew Giancarlo a little bit earlier, but that's where we really became like really close friends. And so the period of that, getting some friends, like friends that actually loved me, friends that could challenge me, friends that could point out the areas that were my blind spots, and do it in a way that I knew that they just wanted the best for me. And so there's a lot of thought, like, how did you do it? How did you do it? And it's like, I didn't. I was given gifts. You know,
it's like luck and blessings, but also I think a lot of that is available to people when they start looking for it.
Yeah. And it sounds like your self-worth also was shifting too, because you were able to see that you were capable of some form of success. And then even though it was lost, you're like, okay, but I was very close to having it stable last time, so let me keep going.
And every step was a little bit better than the one before. Every period was a little bit better than the one before. And there was no perfect times. There was no, all right, now I've made it. But this is better than it was.
Yeah.
This is better than I'm doing better than I was. But wow, I didn't really even think of that, the gift until, because yeah, there's like a lot of ego. I was here and now I'm here and I did it. I'm my own man, right? You know, you want to say that, but like, no, it was a gift.
Oh, no, and yeah, it's funny, we both went to USF at the same time, and we were both going through a lot of shit at the same time, but for me, coming down and having my grandma, who loved me unconditionally, it was this huge moment of like, oh, this is what love is. This is what love could be. Oh, I don't have to suffer. Oh, even when I'm rude or a bitch or whatever, you still come back. Like, I can't push you away. And I think that's part of why I want to be a therapist, to even offer that a little bit to people, because you do see that it brings a little light back to people's eyes.
But there's this choosing of that too, you know? So as much as it's a gift, you can reject the gift. And I've had friends that have rejected the gift, and I've seen men that, you know, like, they get a taste of brotherhood, of like support, of accountability, like loving accountability. Not like you need to do this to earn my friendship, but like you need to do this to like, this is what needs to be done. And some of them run with it, embrace it. Some of them run away from it. I know a lot of guys that have come to a retreat or started doing something, even friends, and then they're like, nope, I'm going back to what I know, the pain that is known, rather than you know, this gift. The gift feels weird,
like the pain of being known, because it feels good in some ways, like, oh my god, somebody's finally seeing me, and then it's also so terrifying in a lot of ways, like, oh my god, I'm being seen.
If you're enjoying this episode and you're wanting to connect to more men in community, then check out our partners at We Are Man Cave with the K, on Instagram. They're located in the Miami area, and they have monthly men's groups and events that you can check out.
If you are suffering with your mental health and looking for a therapist, please find me on psychologytoday.com, Elena Michelle Cohen, and I am more than happy to help anybody start their healing journey.
The familiar hell is more comforting than the unfamiliar heaven. Yeah, I think if you've had a lifetime of experience understanding you're not worthy and not good enough, and then all of a sudden you receive the inverse, it is very uncomfortable to sit with that and receive that, even if consciously it's something that you actively want.
And it's like that taste of heaven being pulled away from you.
Yeah.
Like, what if I lose it and then I have to go back to hell knowing what heaven was like?
Yeah. Like,
scary.
Oh, well, things haven't worked out for me so much in the past that the rug could get pulled up from under me at any moment. So, like, why try? Like, I already know how this is going to play out. And, like, that cynicism, you know?
Stop reading my mind.
So, if you could go back and you could talk to 21-year-old Adam now, what would you tell him?
So, I have a few different Adams that I visit, and they're in my safe place. I learned how to do one part of parts work with my therapist, and some people have different parts that are like, oh, this part of me, that part of me, but for me it's like different selves at certain ages. You know, I have a 12-year-old self and a 15-year-old self and an 18-year-old self and a 21-year-old self, and they're chilling in Puerto Rico on this flamenco beach in Culebra Island.
Where you went with your
it's my little paradise place that they're hanging out. But I do talk to them and I check in on them because I'm not 100% healed. This whole life is a healing process. But as I unlayer, as I look at certain parts of myself, I'll check in with them and I'll talk to them. But more so, like, I am the person that is safe now. I am the person that can take care of you, that is taking care of you, that will take care of you. You're safe with me now. You can be yourself. You don't have to put on a mask. All of these things are what I've told these versions of myself, these parts. And so that is what I would tell them. You know, go through the course, you know, feel the pain. This pain is a gift because it's teaching you what you don't want. And so I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't go back and try to fix certain mistakes. These mistakes are what turned me into who I am today. And I look at those things as blessings. They were hard. They hurt. But I don't feel pain now thinking back at them. You know, I'm very thankful. But yeah, you do have to talk to those parts of yourself and, you know, love on them and tell them now, yeah, you're safe now.
And like let them talk to you, you know, not just like what I would tell myself. What did that version of me need to say to me?
And we've done that work.
Journey, Brandon Bays.
We've done that work.
I love that. It's so nice when you're able to reconnect with these more shadow aspects of yourself and find so much compassion and just hold all of the versions of yourself with equal amount of unconditional love. I love myself even when I'm not successful or the expectation that I put for myself. And side question for the ladies, what, if anything, advice would you say to women on how to bring their man into therapy? Because I'm sure a lot of women with
friends,
yeah,
like, grow and heal. What's a good way to?
So like for me, it wasn't Jovi bringing me to therapy; it was me bringing her to therapy. You know, I had gone to therapists growing up, so I didn't have an aversion to therapy. I went to therapist as a child and went to therapy. There was a therapist at USF that was able to get me the dorm when I was like homeless in college, you know, so like I had a lot of experience with therapists. But in terms of advice, you know, whether it's one partner wanting to bring their other partner to therapy, you can't. Like, you're not going to be able to. If you make them go for you, the therapy is not going to work. You have to just do it for yourself. You have to work on your own healing. You cannot heal the other person. What you're going to do, what I would suggest is, if you want to go to therapy yourself.
Like attraction over promotion.
And a lot of people are not going to want to do the work until they see the fruit from you. Okay? Yeah. You know, if you didn't have the concept of farming and you see somebody plowing a field, you're like, what is this idiot doing? And then the next day, hey, all those holes you dug didn't do shit. And then a month later, you're still waiting, you're watering it. Look at all the work you're doing. For what? And then finally, 4 months, 5 months later, a whole harvest comes. And then they're like, oh. So do not be upset that they don't want to do the work until they see the harvest, until they can eat the fruit that you have now, until they see the new version of you, interact with the new version of you. And then they have a choice. Do I want to do this myself? And if they don't, then I don't know if the relationship's gonna...
At least you have your own fruit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need your fruit anymore.
Yeah, and you can attract a partner who can meet you where you're at in this new version of your healing. Exactly. No, that's fair. Even though I do know a lot of times most men come into therapy because of couples therapy, but...
Well, most men go into the spirituality or into the mental health because of the woman in their life.
Yeah.
You know, the women are generally the first to choose it. And then the man usually will choose it if he doesn't want to lose his woman. And it becomes, that's how they start. And then maybe they do real work. Maybe they don't. Maybe they do a little bit, you know. It's okay.
Yeah. I think, I mean, it depends where the couple is at. But it's always beautiful, I think, when you're able to continue to grow and heal together through all these versions of yourself.
If I can, just like in terms of getting people to come to therapy, I think it's a lot different when you do it out of love rather than pressure. Rather as an ultimatum, if you don't do this, we can't be together anymore. Versus like, I see your pain. I see you suffering so much. If it's not therapy, could it be a pastor? If it's not a pastor, could it be a men's group? I just don't want you to suffer anymore. And I think that draws people in more than the, if you don't do this, we can't anymore.
Well, there's been so many modalities that have helped me. There's been talk therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, and parts work, and EMDR. These are all therapy, right? And those have been great. But also groups, like we have a book club where we read different spiritual texts and we discuss. And that is a place of vulnerability. I've been going to church, and then the small groups at the church, going to different retreats and workshops and learning new skills.
What about the group aspect do you think helps?
Well, it's like I'm not the only person suffering. And when other people are talking about their pain, there is this bond. There is this, oh, wow, I'm not alone. You feel connected. And I feel like the disconnection is what leads to these things perpetuating, continuing. But when you feel connected, when you have somebody there alongside of you, it's a lot easier to do things.
Yeah.
You want to go far, go together, they say. And so whether I'm working out in the gym and I got my friend pushing me, do one more set, like I can go harder at the gym when I have my buddy pushing me. I'm willing to open up more when I have people that are engaging with me. And so these groups are amazing for doing that because you feel like you're not alone. You feel connected. And other people sharing their story, just like I'm doing now. And the whole reason I'm doing this is not for me to get anything off my chest. This is hopefully somebody sees themselves in a part of my story. And it leads them to taking a step. So this is the power of sharing our stories.
Yeah.
Is we're not alone. And I talk about this in the retreats that I run and in the groups that I'm in. You see as a man, you see the star athlete or the CEO businessman, and you're looking how good they are and their perfection. You don't feel connected to them. We are not, we don't find connection in our excellence. We find connection in our suffering. When I'm on the basketball court and I sprain my ankle, every guy there runs to my aid. And they put my arms around their shoulders and they help me off the court. We're doing that emotionally. When I say, oh, I'm good, I don't have any pain or any trauma, do you feel connected to me? And then the more specific you get in your talking is what allows that connection to happen. Say, oh, I'm having some problems with my wife. Or no, I'm having a problem with my wife on XYZ because of ABC, and this is how I feel. People are going to rush towards you. This is where the connection happens. And then the healing.
Yeah. And it's such a barrier sometimes for a lot of people to get there, but I think just knowing that people truly want to know your heart and people genuinely do care about you. And I love how in your story there are so many moments where you found that connection to community and people that were willing to carry your pain with you, which ultimately shows that it's not like this solo hero's journey. It was
I couldn't have done it by myself. No.
Yeah. And talk to us about how your spiritual beliefs changed, because you mentioned that there was a disconnect and then now we see so much presence of God in your life.
Yeah, so the spiritual journey, we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. There's so many things that contribute to it. Just like this, you guys are hearing my story, but we're really only talking about the very major events or some of the major events. There's so much more detail that we're just not going to be able to get in a conversation like this.
Maybe just a little taste, a little sample.
Yeah, no, I got you though. I got you. But with this spiritual journey, I had a lot of questions that the Christianity that I grew up in couldn't answer. Mainly the problem of geography, and you are the religion that is where you're born. That's what's going to determine your religion. And so I'm like, how can the God that created the universe and gravity and precipitation not account for, oh, this person's born in Saudi Arabia, and so that means they're going to hell? Really? I couldn't, that didn't work for me. And so I would question. And so we did the Bhagavad Gita. I've been reading into mystical texts and learning from different spiritual healers and yogis and things like that. Some Eckhart Tolle, some Abraham Hicks, so there's so many different influences, that have gotten me to where I am today. But I would say the spiritual teacher that I want to emulate the most is Jesus. That's my favorite. He's my favorite. He's the person that I try to model myself after. And I guess my beliefs now is, we all must become Christ conscious to create heaven on earth. And that's when the end of the world will come, when we have created heaven on earth and everyone is acting exactly as Jesus would act. So that's where the beliefs are now. And so I feel like we got a long way to go. But every action of love, every time we choose courage, every time we choose to do the loving thing, I feel like speeds that up.
And it sounds like once you started seeing God instead of punishing or vindictive or judgmental, once you let go the concept of hell, for you, it's like, oh, God is loving. Would you feel like that's true, or how do you feel?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's really, we're scared to question because we believe in eternal conscious torment, or that's the biggest
like
barrier.
when we went to Calvary or we were going to churches.
The biggest barrier to questioning and really trying to learn and to seek God rather than just listening to what you've been given is the problem of hell, and once you're able to kind of set that aside, then so many things are opened up to you. And yeah, it is a way more loving world once you're able to let that go.
Like, I'm not going to be punished. I'm going to get a second chance. Or like, you got multiple lessons multiple times. It wasn't just like, well, he failed. We're done. No more lessons for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
I talked a lot about my wife during this episode. Her name is Joby. And Joby and I both together work for Oh My Soul Vibes. It's a company that we run, and it's all about spiritual healing, emotional well-being. If you're looking to relax, we do sound baths. If you're looking for some healing, we do Reiki, energy work, as well as breath work. We also run retreats. The Limitless Living Retreat will help you learn how to let go of limiting beliefs, as well as money mindset coaching. If you have trouble thinking about money, if budgeting and if money concerns stress you out, we can offer some life coaching there. You can find us on ohmysoulvibes.com. That's OHO mysoulvibes.com, or Instagram at ohmysoulvibes.
How did you go from feeling like God doesn't hear me and he's not around to starting to feel his presence again?
Well, the old concept of God was either, the finger, or God as a vending machine. I put in a prayer. I put in a prayer, and out pops the prayer request. And so, moving from that to different concepts of God, it was a lot of unlearning. And I mentioned earlier, like tearing up the plant from its roots to plant something new. And that's what had to happen 6 years ago, 6 years ago. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so it's just a process of like life is learning a whole bunch of stuff and then having to unlearn it all to find a new concept.
Reprogramming a new understanding.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So maybe in episode 2 we can dive more into Adam's testimony because I know there's so much there. But I have some hot seat questions for you.
Ooh, hot seat.
If we could end.
Let's do it.
Okay. So currently, what habits or mindsets do you use now to stay grounded, focused, and emotionally well?
What mindsets and habits do I have? Well, discipline, and realizing that discipline is the way that I can show love to myself. Discipline in terms of eating the right thing, discipline in terms of working out, using different tools that I have instead of the old tools. When I encounter a stressful situation, instead of rushing to have a drink to, take the edge off or whatever, like, all right, dive into the tough conversation. One of the things that I really feel now is, okay, feelings aren't meant to be avoided. They're meant to be felt. And so if I'm feeling sad, like, okay, I'll feel sad. I don't need to let this sadness, because when you try to avoid certain feelings and when you're only seeking happiness, like, I just got to be happy all the time, then when you are sad or angry, it kind of takes over you. But when you just allow yourself to feel, you can feel the emotion and then let it go. And so I don't have an obsession with trying to be happy anymore. It's like I can feel what I need to feel. And because I'm okay with that, there's a peace now underneath it. Even when I'm angry, I'm peaceful. Even when I'm sad, I'm peaceful. And when I'm happy, I'm peaceful. My life used to be a series of going all the way down to 0, going all the way up to 10, all the way down to 0, all the way up to 10. And now I try to keep it between a 4 and a 6. You know, I'm chilling.
How come you're peaceful, even when you're angry? What keeps you peaceful?
Knowing that everything is working out for me. I really believe that every single thing I encounter is to my benefit, especially the negative situations. You know, I can tie the horrible moments of my life and the painful moments of my life to the lesson that they taught me and how my life has transformed after implementing that lesson. And so that realization, that understanding allows me to kind of just float down the river of life and, you know, welcome whatever comes my way. And welcoming it, again, doesn't mean I'm going to be happy about it. I'm not like super excited when, you know, there's a flat tire on my car and I got to change it. You know, when I have to have a tough conversation with someone, I'm not like happy, but I welcome it because this is developing me. It's getting me to a point where I can say what I feel in a loving way without having to react or be so angry at you for stepping on my emotional toe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It reminds me of like what if you fired over 50 people and the way you're able to keep your heart open even as you're letting them go, they walk away still feeling like, oh, okay, you know.
Yeah. How can you fire someone in a loving way? How can you kick someone out of your house in a loving way? And these are, you know, things that I've had to do over the past couple of years and had to do frequently. How to have a confrontation in a loving and kind way. I literally a few days ago had to, you know, confront my father-in-law and, you know, really talk to him and, you know, in a way lay into him on certain things and behaviors, like really hard things, you know. And during the conversation, I held his hand and sat next to him instead of across from him like an opponent. But I said what I had to say, and I said some things that made him cry. But I would layer them in with, we want you around. We want you as part of our life. These are the things that need to happen. And so I feel like when you welcome whatever circumstance, not excited, not like, do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Just being in full acceptance, yeah.
Accepting it.
Yeah.
You know, it allows you to do things in a loving way. It allows you to have the emotion but not be controlled by the emotion. And that was the early part of my life, being controlled by emotion. You know, seeing red, getting so sad and feeling like my life needs to be over now. You know, letting the emotion really control you. That's when I would do the thing. You know, like these are, because I was ruled by the emotion at the time.
Yeah.
Feeling like, oh, this is happening to me instead of happening for me. Little shifts in mindset allow you to have big changes. And so I think that answered your question.
Yeah.
Hot seat.
Okay. Compared to your past, what did masculinity mean to you? And what messages did you grow up hearing about success compared to how you perceive it now?
Yeah. So I didn't grow up with a toxic masculinity. You know, when we use the masculine and feminine in terms of like spiritual connotations, where like a man can be masculine and feminine, a woman can be masculine and feminine. My mom was way more masculine than my father. And so I didn't really have this like machismo, like macho man kind of toxic masculinity. But what I did have was I needed to excel and be perfect in everything that I did. And that is something that I'm still continuing to unlearn. Because what it leads to is you can never even be happy over successes because that's the expectation. And so I didn't really have a kind of a toxic masculinity. Masculinity didn't really mean much to me growing up or during this time. But now
Well, it sounded like what you described before was very like sexual based. Like your masculinity is how many partners you can have.
Yeah, I guess like that's the only way I thought of my sexuality back then or my masculinity back then was through my sexual conquests, I guess. You know, how many people I can have sex with, the types of people I would have sex with. And
And
so,
if someone doesn't have sex with you, it must mean they don't
yeah,
love
that they
you.
don't love me, that I am not worthy, you know, that those were very wrapped up together. That's something that I had to learn to let go of in the therapy. That was one of the things that contributed to that rock bottom in my relationship, that led to the spiritual growth and the transformation. Now masculinity means accountability, stepping up, doing the right thing, holding space when I need to hold space, you know, and it can be dangerous because you start identifying with certain roles. You know, I'm the provider now in my house, and that's great. But what happens if I got into an accident and wasn't able to provide? Does that mean I'm no longer masculine? You know, so there's certain things to do, but there's got to be a little bit of care put in terms of separating the things that masculine does versus masculinity itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. You know, having like your own authentic identity aside from the acts solely that you have to do.
Yeah, masculine does this, and this. And if you check those things off your masculine, like, no, I don't think it works that way.
Yeah.
It's more of a way of being, you know?
Definitely. I mean, it's subjective depending on the person who's defining it. So I love that you're having your own interpretation of it. But I mean, obviously there are like certain societal stereotypes that most people grew up with. But yeah, I mean, I think having that notion of like, I'm not allowed to celebrate my successes as the expectation, and then going from such a drastic contrast to then like having the change you are now, I imagine that you're able to redefine it in a completely different way. So
like there's less pressure to perform to certain roles.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's every day is a practice and taking more steps in that direction. It shows up the most often with my wife, where I have to, like, for the longest, I wouldn't tell her what I think. That would be, like, if I had a disagreement with, or if I disagreed with something she said or how she acted, I would normally keep it to myself. But over the past year, especially the past 6 months, I've been sharing. And she, you know, the reaction at first is, you know, what? It would cause a fight. But, you know, the more you do it, the more people get accustomed to it. Setting boundaries and stuff like that. You know, I would be scared to set boundaries before. But now I can set them and enforce them.
Become safer to express yourself. Yes. Okay, my last question. What advice would you give to someone who is in the same situation as you, going through either suicide ideation or struggling with homelessness?
Yeah. So you're not alone. Other people are going through similar things. Other people are suffering. And there is support, and there are groups, there are places you can go to get that help. When you're offered that help, grab the fuck onto the hand that you're given. Accept the love. And do the work. Embrace that uncomfort, that discomfort, the unknown. Because if it continues and you don't, it'll just lead you to more and more suffering until you can't take it anymore.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. Really appreciate you bearing your heart with us and just being so open.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for the work that you both do.
Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Well Necessity podcast. Please follow us on Instagram and our YouTube channel, The Well Necessity Co., to stay tuned with our updates on the documentary film. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope this message was helpful and inspiring to you. Thank you.